Oh, good. This is a good place to hide. They won't find me in here. Oh, hey guys, it's Ryan here for another gaming discussion. I don't have much time here for this intro, but I'll make this quick. I was about to hide in here, but that's not important. Today we're going to be... Oh, shit, they're coming. Today we're going to be talking about Pokemon Generation 2 and my thoughts on it, and why it's not the best generation is what everyone says. Don't kill me. Now, obviously, I can't make a statement like that without providing some context to it, so I will. I do not hate Pokemon Generation 2. In fact, it is one of my top 4 favorite generations of all the Pokemon gens they've come out with, the 8 thus far. The point of this video is I just want to give my thoughts on Gen 2 as a whole, not really going specifically reviewing the games, but more so just talking about how a lot of people view this game as like a masterpiece of sorts, this generation, and while it is really good, I personally don't see Gen 2 as a 10 out of 10 stellar game, so really that's the whole purpose of me making this video. Not to bash Gen 2 or any of the fans, because I do enjoy it, and I've played through Gold and I really enjoyed my experience with it. I just don't think it's perfect. Even my favorite generation isn't perfect either, so I'm not saying that neither as a Pokemon fan. None of the gens are perfect, but Gen 2 is the one I see pop up the most, and that's why I want to talk about it. For those of you who wish for context, Pokemon Generation 3 is my favorite, and that generation is by no means perfect as well. In my own mind, I like to think so, but at the same time, though, I do acknowledge that even though it's a good generation, it is not perfect by any means either, so just wanted to provide some context there. If anyone wants to call me out in the comments for it, which, again, I'm not attacking anybody, but I do want to give my thoughts on Gen 2, and how, because every single YouTuber that I've watched in the past, for the most part, has said Gen 2 is their favorite. That's fine, but when it comes to it being 10 out of 10, I disagree. I don't think it's that perfect. My overall view of Gen 2 is, Generation 2, when it was first made back in the 90s, it was intended to be the last Pokemon generation. At the time, Nintendo, Game Freak, whoever the major company was, whoever's decision it was for the people who made the Pokemon games, they wanted to end Gen 2. They wanted to end the Pokemon franchise. So they did that. The entirety of Gen 2 is its own cool journey, the return of Team Rocket. It's very nostalgic. They wanted to end off the series by bringing back the classic villains from the last game. And that's why you can go back to Kanto in this game, too, 3 years later. So you can see what happened, years after Red's defeated Team Rocket and became the Pokemon champion. And then you even get to fight Red at the end, too, to kind of tie off the entire franchise in a way. You get to go back and revisit parts of regions that you played in the past, and thus end off the series with the playing against the person you played as last time. So, Gen 2 was supposed to be the conclusion of the Pokemon franchise. Luckily, that didn't happen because we've gotten Gen 3, Gen 4, and so on and so forth. Some really good games in there. And I'm really glad they didn't, because I love Gen 3. But that's part of the reason why I think Gen 2 isn't as strong in some areas, because it was intended to be the ending of the entire franchise. The Kanto region, for example, was a very cool addition, and I really wish they would incorporate that more in the future games and series. But the problem with the Gen 2 Kanto region is, when you go back and revisit them, the best part about that region, in my opinion, is the Red boss fight. That is by far the best part about it. But the gym leaders are very lackluster. They don't have very strong teams for that point in the game. The Pokemon League's stronger than, the Kanto gyms, which, you could argue Pokemon League, whatever. But they weren't much of a challenge. The region wasn't as expansive as what it could be. It was cool seeing the different changes and whatnot, like Lavender Town now being a radio tower instead of the cemetery that we all knew from Gen 1. But the fact of the matter is, there just wasn't as much quality of life stuff. There wasn't enough content within the Kanto part to really justify it, I don't think, completely. And it could have been way bigger, way more expansive, and we could have had much more story input in there, in addition to what we had in Johto. So, Kanto kind of feels like an afterthought, and it's not 100% solid. And like I said, even the gym leader fights, the Pokemon aren't that strong. Some of them don't have as big a teams as what they could. And it's a really big point of the game. The big reason why people love this game is because of Kanto. While I think it's a cool addition, it's not as strong as what it could have been. Now, discounting the Kanto side of the game, Johto itself is a strong region in itself, intriguing story and whatnot, and it does have some really cool, unique set pieces and Pokemon, especially for the time whenever it came out in comparison to nowadays. But I have 2 major problems with Johto as a whole for the game. Like I said, none of these things make the game terrible or bad, but it's just quality of life issues. For one, the gym leaders I have a main issue with as well. The gym leaders, when you compare it to Gen 1, Gen 3, or any of the other generations, they all have very few Pokemon in comparison to the other gens. They're not as strong if you're not counting Whitney and her Miltank. But they don't have as many Pokemon at that stage of the game. They're not very challenging in many different aspects, and they're really easy to bulldoze over, especially if you have a higher leveled up Pokemon. You could just use your starter and steamroll your way through. the entirety of the gyms. So that's one issue I have. The major one, though, is like the selling point. Now, I understand why they brought Team Rocket back, because they're a classic villain, and they're ending the game off. They want to bring back some kind of classic villain from the last game. But the return of Team Rocket's cool in theory, but they only appear 3 major times throughout the game, and they don't do much. In the first game, led by Giovanni, they took over Silphco. They kidnapped an old man in the Pokemon Tower. They went and excavated a mountain in order to steal fossils. Giovanni was the 8th gym leader, intending to take you down there before you reached the league. So that stuff was cool. You encountered them a lot more times. Even in their own hideout, you infiltrate. But in this game, it's not as much. There's 3 separate encounters, one where they're stealing tails from Slowpoke. The second major encounter is in, like, 50% of the game through, and then you go and find them in the secret base where they're trying to force Pokemon to evolve in a secret underground lab. And the last one is when they try to take over the radio tower to contact Giovanni. I get the premise of Team Rocket being here in the game, but the fact of the matter is they were really underutilized. They're really easy to beat, and the leaders are just like 4 kind of forgetful admins. The last one that's apparently the leader, you only encounter once, and that's at the radio tower. Once you beat him, Team Rocket gets disbanded again, aside from that one encounter in Kanto. So, Johto does have its fair share of things. Like I said, it's a good region, but there's several quality of life issues and stuff with the gym leaders and with the villains themselves that just kind of bog this region down, and for me personally at least. And that's why I want to say, like, it's not a 100% game. It's not a 10 out of 10. So, to everyone out there who thinks it is, that's fine. You can have your opinion, but for my thoughts, it's a good game, absolutely. Like I said, not bashing it for that. And fans of the game, perfectly fine too. Not trashing anyone for that. But it's not perfect, is what I'm trying to say. It's really not. Even my region isn't perfect, though, either. I mean, yeah. So those are just a few points that I wanted to bring up for today's video, guys. Like I said, hopefully nobody wants to spear me after this. I mean, I was expecting someone to earlier, but phew, my fridge was too full for me to fit in anyway. But if you guys enjoyed today's video, give it a like. Really let me know your thoughts in the comments of this video. I really want to know what you guys think about this. Like I said, not trying to start some kind of fan fight or anything with this video, but I did kind of want to give my opinions on this region. I've seen the most often come up as like a 10 out of 10 in all the books from people. I understand that it was cool for the time, and it does have really cool features. I think that's more nostalgia talking, if you actually want to review it. Like I said, I'm just as guilty as anyone. I've said that for multiple games I've played in the past that they're 10 out of 10. But as a reviewer, when I've done YouTube, I've come to realize that even with games that you love, if you want to fairly review something, you have to be willing to look at the flaws of it too. So, you know, that's just kind of my take on it. But seriously let me know what you guys think about Generation 2, if you agree with me, you disagree with me. If there's anything else that you guys would have added in that has issues with or does well, let me know all that in the comments. And if subscribe to the channel if you guys want to catch gaming discussions like this. And I do have some reviews and whatnot coming, and I have an unboxing video already filmed and edited. I just have to get around to uploading it at some point. So, thank you guys for watching, and until next time, I'll catch you guys later. Peace.